Jai Hind. On this occasion of Republic Day, we are very happy to share this special video of an INA veteran, Major Ishwar Lal Singh Ji, who was part of INA Balak Sena in Singapore. In this video, he explained about his introduction with Netaji and his participation in Balak Sena, and also he has shared his messages for this current generation. Let's hear what Dadaji says to us.
Jai Hind. I met Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose sometime in 1943. I met him in 1942 when he arrived from Germany at the request of the Japanese army. They had, first of all, General Mohan Singh, who organized the Indian National Army. He actually set it up. But then he did not trust the Japanese. The Japanese did not trust him. So on that basis they split. Then they brought in Ras Bihari Bose, who was actually an escaped Bengali from India some many years ahead of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and he settled that in India, in Japan, and married into the family. He set up a restaurant, and that restaurant was doing very well, and he became popular in that way. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was in Germany, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose actually, what I know, is escaped from India because the British wanted to arrest him. They wanted to put him out of sight for everybody, because he was organizer and he did quite a lot in India for the Indian independence. He was then the president of the Indian Congress Party at the time when he left India, went to Afghanistan and escaped to Germany. Later on, he set up, he did not leave the Indian independence behind and continued to struggle for it, and became a good friend of the Führer, Adolf Hitler. And from there, he was made known to the Japanese that here was a leader who would be able to actually uplift the INA better than anybody else so far. That is General Mohan Singh and Ras Bihari Bose. So he came to visit and pay his respects to Ras Bihari Bose. At that time, my duties were not to allow Ras Bihari Bose to be disturbed during his napping time after lunch every day. So I used to sit myself next to the phone. The very first ring it gave, I used to pick it up and talk to the people concerned and explain to them that he was not available, or receive the messages or whatever they wanted to send, that who was coming to visit him or whatever. That made my job easier. But on Netaji's arrival, I was not told that he was coming. So I thought it was just a group of Indian leaders who were trying to make themselves famous that had come at that time. So as Netaji walked up the flight of steps, I put my hand across the rail and I asked him, "Kahan ja rahe ho, bhai?" And I did not know Netaji at all at that time. So then he put his hand on my shoulder, said, "Beta, naam kya hai tumhara?" And I was proudly said, "Naam hai mera Ishwar Singh, Saputra Khajan Singh." And then he said, "Nahi ji, aaj se tumhara naam hai Ishwar ke Lal. Tum Ishwar ke Lal ho." So I thanked him for that. And by that time, Netaji, Ras Bihari Bose had heard a lot of quite noise at that level. He came out of his door. Then they went into the conference room and had their meeting. And that is where Netaji Subhashchandra Bose became known to me. And he was a very inspiring person. As soon as I saw him, I thought he was somebody who was an important person for the Indian National Army. Then next I met him at the City Hall when he spoke to all these 60,000 soldiers who were prisoners of war of the British Army. They were British Indian Army soldiers who were prisoners of war, and he convinced them as to why they should become Indian freedom fighters and get India freed out of these clutches of the British. There are pictures of this gathering in the newspapers. Unfortunately, I was not a collector, and I just lived on a day-to-day basis as to what happens today and then passed it on. Next, Netaji Subhashchandra Bose then, having seen me, thought that it would be a good idea to have a Balak Sena. That is my feelings. He never spoke to me about it, but that is my feelings. And he set up Balak Sena at 2 Gilstead Road, opposite the Indian headquarters, where I was. I would like then to say this, that Netaji Subhashchandra Bose changed my life, changed my lifestyle from a British-oriented style to an Indian-oriented style. I joined the Balak Sena, and that is where I learnt of all the sufferings that Indians had undergone under the British rule. I never hated the British, but I was against the British for what they had done. Then I don't have any dates, unfortunately, but I met Netaji Subhashchandra Bose again on a number of occasions, and then once when he was talking in Waterloo Street, once when he was talking in City Hall, and once when he was talking at the Indian Army camp in Bidadari. And Netaji Subhashchandra Bose was really an inspiring leader. Every time he uttered something, most of the Indians would carry the nara of "Chalo Delhi, Chalo Delhi, Chalo Delhi." And that is how the Indians, even in Singapore, those who were not interested in the Indian lifestyles, which I was not interested in the Indians, and knew nothing about the Indians until I met Netaji Subhashchandra Bose, and I heard him talk, and I really changed my mind. I forgot all about the British, and I only became an Indian. That is when I was a real Indian. We then continued with our training. I became a staff sergeant major or Haldar major, और जहाँ से हमको, and then I was asked by the class teacher, I forgot his name now, to go to Veerasamy Road and teach the students of Ramakrishna Mission to do the National Day songs and the National Day parade. And I inspired them. I hope I did. But I have never met any of them after the Japanese War. Unfortunately, I do not know why, but that's the way it is. And in Balak Sena then, we were trained, we were taught the history of India, the sufferings of India, under the British rule, and the suffering of the Indian women especially under the Indian rule. I learned about Rani Jhansi and her organization. She organized an army against the British.
When INA lost in the war,
Yes.
what was your feeling after that?
We never thought of losses. We never thought of defeats. Always forward. Always forward thinking. That is what Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had taught us. That always think forward. Always think आगे बढ़ो बस. हम पीछे का सोचते ही नहीं थे. कभी भी नहीं सोचा था. That is how we were. And I have always lived my life in that way since the British returned in September 1945.
Okay, I heard that you were very upset about that things happened to the INA War Memorial in Singapore.
Yes.
Yeah, can you brief what was your feeling?
Well, the Indian National Monument that was put up there was in recognition of all the sacrifices that were made by the Indians of the Indian National Army. We were very proud of it when it was built, and but then when the British came, they did not want anything Indian to be remembered, so that was the first item they destroyed on their landing. And this was destroyed by the engineers of the British Army. I remember the teacher's name now. The teacher of the Balak Sena was Mr. Upadhyaya. He was given the rank of lieutenant, and Mr. Upadhyaya then called us back to Balak Sena, and he told us, look, these people have destroyed our memorial. You are appointed to do something about it. So will you do it? I said, yes. We were all very strong. We all in one response said, हाँ जी, हम करेंगे, हम इसको बर्बाद कर देंगे. We did our best. We tried it for 6-7 months. Every night we used to go down there with the explosives hidden somewhere around there. We had explosives to destroy, and unfortunately...
To destroy the memorial that was built by British, right?
Sorry, ji?
To destroy what?
The British Army, the British memorial remained intact. Unfortunately, I believe the British intelligence knew that we would actually attempt to do something to that memorial, because they had destroyed ours. So what happened is, every night we went there, that place was crowded. Everybody used to be sitting down there, lovers, boyfriends, girlfriends, and other people, elderly people. They used to be just sitting down around there, talking, chit-chatting. We were away until past midnight. And only on one occasion did we see that this was a military organized affair, because military vehicles came to pick them up. At other times they used to use taxis and private cars. Then we did not have a chance to do anything about it. We were called by Mr. Upadhyaya at Bidadari, where he was a prisoner of war, and he explained to us, because the trouble was the British did not feel that we could do anything about it, all these things. We were a weak army. And in fact, we were much weaker than them, but we managed to succeed in Imphal, and I am very proud of the memorial which has Netaji Subhashchandra Bose. If you are an Indian, please stand here for 5 minutes and listen to our anthem. One important thing which I would like to leave behind is that Indians should never forget what the British did in India. Should never forget, and they should be trained in the classrooms of the Indian classrooms, what as a source of history, how India suffered under the British regimes. And the other important thing is that every Indian should know about what Netaji Subhashchandra Bose and the INA did for the independence of India, which actually caused the British to think twice about granting independence. Then Mr. Mohandas Gandhi had many times attempted to get freedom by talking, but talking did not work with the British. This action of organization and having built an army to go down all the way through the Burma jungles to India and fight gave them a thought that Indians are now organized, they are able to organize themselves, we should leave them alone and we should ensure our freedom is kept. That is how the British thought, and the British then gave. And this was under Mr. Attlee. Mr. Attlee was the Prime Minister. He then became quite unpopular with the British people because of giving up India. But the British people lost everything that India had. They used to have a word, they used to have a statement that the sun never set on the British regime, but it began to set after they gave independence to India, because there were no Indians to fight for them. They had to do it themselves. These are things that the Indian should all be taught. All Indians should be taught this about the Indian Independence Army and the INA. That's very important for the Indians.
On 125th birth anniversary of Netaji, what do you wish for us? Can you, on 125th birth anniversary of Netaji, what is a wish you want to give for this current generation?
Well, I would wish on this birthday of Netaji that all Indians should be gathered together and we should all pray and sing praises of Netaji Subhashchandra Bose rather than consider that he has passed away. We should consider Netaji Subhashchandra Bose alive somewhere in this world, guiding us, guiding the Indians. And the most important thing is that the present generation of Indians and the future generation of Indians should always be taught the history of the INA and what he achieved for India as a one-man show. He was all alone all the time, but fortunately the British had lost to the Germans and the Japanese. And that is how the INA managed to get through to India. I am very happy to have been a member of the INA. I am very proud of every member who sacrificed his life for Indian freedom. We must not forget what they have done for us. We must never forget what INA has done for India.
Thank you, Dadaji, for wonderful speech and your time. Thank you so much. On behalf of all INA family members, I am thanking you.
Thank you.
Jai Hind, Dadaji.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Thank you. Jai Hind.